Cameras are over. Style is out. It's time to create atmosphere, and nothing proves that more than Dune exposures. I've been Dune-pilled, officially. I've been a fan of Denis Villeneuve's films for quite a long time. I'm drawn to them by their intense visual language. Images he has created through his movies are stuck in my brain. I revisit Sicario all the time, as well as Blade Runner 2049, and I think Arrival may be one of the greatest films of the 21st century. Ever since I had a child, I avoid watching Prisoners, though. Although it is an amazing film, I can never watch it again. The common thread running through all of these films is that they create a world. They put you in a place where a story is unfolding, and maybe it resembles our world, but it's not really our world. Sicario feels like our world, but it's a different one. It's a different version of our world that is, drained of all hope. And talk about world building, Dune Part 1 does it extremely well. It was hard to fully embrace at the time because it's not a complete story. It's half a story. But I knew that his version of Dune was going to be incredible based on what he did in Part 1. Just the scale of everything was so crazy and so impressive. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. And unfortunately for me, it was during COVID. We had just had a baby. I did not get to see Part 1 in a theater. I had to see it day and date on HBO Max. But when I saw Dune Part 2, I didn't like it, to be honest with you. I don't know what it was. Maybe I was on a bad spice trip or something. I wasn't on its wavelength. I had read the book in the past, and so I think I expected something more from an adaptation of Dune. I felt like it glossed over certain things that I saw as important. I felt like the North versus South thing with the Fremen was kind of ham-fisted, and there were just things that I didn't understand about where they were taking Paul Atreides that made me wonder how they were going to rectify that in a possible Dune Messiah. But then I watched it a second time, and I got it. It made sense. I'm in, fully. And so I went from not really liking Dune Part 2 to thinking, maybe, just maybe, it's the greatest film ever made. Dune Exposures is a photo book that contains photos of the behind the scenes of the creation of Part 1 and Part 2 of Dune. The photos are shot by cinematographer Greg Fraser, who I think really became known to the photography and filmmaking community through the Batman, the Matt Reeves, the Batman movie. It just oozes atmosphere and shows that he has a real photographer sensibility and he has a real command of light. It's around $50, and if you're a photographer, I think it's essential because it's about something that I think about all the time in photography. Dune Exposures has atmosphere. Atmosphere, like the photos of Beware My Fuji, Adam Goldberg, Ben Parks, Rachel B. Polaroids, and Todd Hido. These are people who live in other worlds but are simply documenting it. And in Dune Exposures, Greg Fraser and Josh Brolin are on Arrakis. One day it was with a camera he bought at a flea market somewhere in Budapest, and on another day it'd be another camera he found on the boardwalk along Venice Beach before he left. Always film. And there's a shot of Greg Fraser shooting with an Olympus. Throughout the book, there's a mixture of medium format and 35mm, but they all have a similar vibe to them. Whether Josh Brolin shot them or Greg Fraser shot them, neither of which really mention fully the cameras they're using to shoot these images. And quite honestly, it doesn't matter. I think this book is proof that we need to even move on from the idea of trying to find a style and move more to normalize living on a different planet or dimension. Our work should all be able to have a cohesive vibe, no matter if we're shooting medium format film or digital. We need to be documenting the dimension or planet in which we live. And me, I'm a military kid. There's transience running through me. In my small town photo project series, I went to a world that was almost utopian, a world that seemed somewhat immune from what was going on with the global pandemic at the time. My Polaroids are documenting some world that looks like ours, but something isn't right. And many of my double exposures are tourist snapshots of different planets and locations, but they don't really fit anywhere but maybe a photo album somewhere. And I think that maybe it's time for me to unpack my suitcase and take up residence somewhere. This book is super inspiring, and not just on a photographic level. The way they selected the images to be in this book, the way they put it together is very interesting to me. The way they presented it without differentiating whose photos are whose, the way they inserted words, all reflects the beautiful jazz that is Dune Part 2, especially. And this book covers both movies, but it feels like they just did Dune Part 1 to really get to Dune Part 2. Like, Dune Part 2 was the movie that everyone involved really wanted to make at the end of the day. And regardless, I'm now a follower of Greg Fraser's work. I found out about his techniques and his sensibilities with the Batman. I kind of wondered if he was a photographer first. And this book kind of confirms that. He's a master of atmosphere. Thanks for watching. You can follow my Instagram at Will Malone. You can follow my Polaroid Instagram account at RoidRage72. And hit that subscribe button if you want to keep following along with whatever the heck this is.